For as much early aughts cheese this game shoves down your throat, I did find myself enjoying its absurdity, and from what I've seen, the second game goes even harder, so we have this but even more to look forward to. If only I'd known what I was signing up for. So, ObsCure 2, or The Aftermath as it's known on PSP, is the hardest bout of whiplash I've ever experienced going from one game to another in the same series. Where do I begin? The graphics that somehow feel and look worse than the first game, where at times it feels like the devs were just lazy and went, that'll do? The environment, which unlike the first game, where it had a tight focus on a single location, bounces around multiple areas and feels incredibly flimsy by comparison. The way progression is hamstrung by making each character's special ability a skill gate that you can't bypass without them, so you have to backtrack constantly if you weren't psychic and didn't realize that you would need them. Or how about the camera that constantly tries to give you nausea and get you killed 80% of the time, because for some reason the devs decided to go for a weird middle ground between fixed camera angles and over-the-shoulder angles, leading to the camera whipping around like a squirrel on caffeine is in control. The only good thing in this game is the music. I'm glad the composer went on to get more work in the industry, but the same cannot be said for the studio, which is all but completely dismantled as of writing. I just don't understand what happened here. What on earth went on behind the scenes to produce this mess? Not to mention, we are once more without a volume slider for anything, not music, not ambient noise, not voices, not even a one-size-fits-all master volume, nothing. So if you're intent on subjecting yourself to this game, once again, please turn your desktop volume down before you launch it. Also, you're going to see my mouse cursor in the footage. I tried to switch to a controller to make it go away, but that didn't work, so we're just going to ignore it and get through this together, alright? What's that, you say? I haven't gotten to the story? Oh, we'll get to the f***ing story. If you enjoy this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and drop a comment telling me your experience with the game. We begin this torturous journey with some random guy explaining what happened 2 years ago at Leafmore High and... Is that Stan?
Until Herbert Friedman decided to use the students as guinea pigs for an experiment that would save the life of his diseased brother Leonard.
Whoa, dog. I don't know what you've been smoking, but you need to stop.
But don't tell me you didn't see anything. You didn't notice anything bizarre?
Yeah, everything I see up in this piece is whack.
Okay, so the game did one more good thing aside from the music. We're shown that the Mortophilia has mutated enough to survive outside, and a flower blows into the dorm room of Corey and his girlfriend May, two of the new protagonists we'll come to care for very deeply over the course of this game. You can interact with some of the things in this god-awful mess of a room, and on the bed, Corey claims that it's seen a lot of girls come and go, which, yes, I'm sure they've done at least one of those things.
Bitch, that is not a pregnancy test. That is a used tampon from your dirty pussy, okay?
What the f***? Anyway... There's a huge party about to be thrown by the Delta Theta Gamma Brotherhood, a 200-year-old fraternity that I'm sure isn't behind everything, but definitely is. The two leave to have pre-party drinks with the rest of their friend group in Sven's room, the Norwegian-born American-raised jock of the group. As is the case with every single dorm across the world, the kids are recklessly doing weird drugs and having unprotected sex in every conceivable fashion, which will drop an anvil so heavy it breaks through the floor right into the ground and bonks Satan on the head like a horny bat from God. Kenny and Shannon from the first game make a brief appearance as Kenny takes a drive-by huff of the crushed-up Mortophilia flower, which you'd think he or Shannon would have recognized by now because according to Sven, the entire student body has been making tea out of it for a month. Shannon angrily drags him off, and we're treated to Corey going on a hell of a bad trip, with May going along for the ride. We're treated to visions of... Oh, Jesus Christ, this is where the game really starts trying to kill me. Corey progresses through the hallucination, seeing visions of Leafmore High, his injured friends, and chasing after some axe murderer in a burlap sack. He's treated to a discount version of Silent Hill's Mirror World, and I desperately wish at this point that I was playing that instead of this. We see May's sister June missing half of her upper body, and Sven nearly split down the middle, both of them crumbling into black spores upon contact. Further along, we get this scene with Amy, the busty blonde of the group.
Look at me. See how satisfied I am. Pleasure has opened its petals inside my body. A new flower will blossom, and it will be the one that men will not be able to have.
What are you saying, Amy?
which is already a lot to unpack on its own, but considering where the story goes with her, I do not understand what in the actual Jesus-loving f*** the devs were trying to say with this. But we'll get to that, won't we? We're released from this hallucination to Corey puking in the dorm bathroom, and after drinking an energy drink, he's perfectly lucid and recovered. Somehow. Which isn't just game mechanics, it's brought up in the story, but isn't explained. After perilously shimmying his way to the girls' wing, he meets back up with May and they leave June passed out in her room to go to the frat party. The focus switches to Kenny and Amy, and there's brief romantic tension between them with these exchanges.
I hope there'll be some cute guys there.
Right. What about me then?
You're not a guy, Kenny. You're a friend.
No comment.
Could you drag this crate over there? I can't do it. I'm just a weak girl.
Yeah, sure.
I like to see you work out.
Yeah? Does it make you all hot and sweaty for me? I could use the exercise.
Don't worry. I'm sure someone will take pity on you inside.
Which, again, we'll get to that. Sneaking their way into the party through an open window, we're shown the Mortophilia plants opening and releasing their spores, which don't disperse into the air, but take a very direct and pointed flight back up and into a different open window like guided missiles. This immediately unleashes hell in the space of 5 seconds, to the point that the room Kenny and Amy are climbing into while this happens is in enough disarray for Kenny to question it, but it's also completely empty. Is the game implying a full-blown outbreak happened in the time it took them to climb through the window, trashing the room but leaving no bodies or active monsters for them to see while climbing through? Who knows? The game sure doesn't. We learn that Amy's special ability is decrypting, which is cool and all, but how in the actual hell did she get a working safe code from this mess? Moving on, they find the rest of the building in chaos as one girl bursts through the door and delivers this sterling dialogue.
I'm hurt and they've killed my boyfriend! It will soon be your turn!
Once armed, the pair fight their way through the building, and oh, by the way, instead of using save discs, you save in this game at set points by knocking yourself out with a Mortophilia flower. Cool. Great. Seems perfectly safe to just keep doing that. They catch up with a biology teacher and get attacked, whereupon the scene cuts to Corey and May turning up to the building. Upon seeing the mutilated corpses outside, May does the smart thing and suggests that they leave immediately because that would be the normal and safe thing to do, but Corey wants to know what's going on and subsequently seals their fate. May's special ability is hacking, which she uses to open the front door and get them inside. They're immediately locked in by a wall of Mortophilia spores and forced to fight their way through the building.
Hey, what's wrong? I didn't do anything!
This eventually brings them to Amy, Kenny, and the teacher, Mr. Richard James, who seems far too calm about the monster he's dissecting, or the fact that it used to be human. He mentions that he mentors the Delta Theta Gamma Brotherhood, and I'm immediately suspicious of him. Kenny blames everything that's happening on the Mortophilia, quite rightly, and before everyone leaves, Mr. James gives the kids a syringe to extract heart blood from the monsters, for a healing serum, that they're just expected to inject right into their bodies. Are you sure that's safe?
I assure you, it's completely harmless.
Making their way out of the building, the kids run into Sven at the front, only to watch him nearly get run over by a stranger stealing Corey's car. Corey flips out and runs after it, leaving everyone else but Amy behind.
My car's not far from here! Come back, you retard!
That sure is a choice of dialogue. The kids all have walkie-talkies instead of phones for some reason, and Jun asks May for help because there are monsters back at the dorms and she's trapped in her room, so Sven and May head back to save her. Kenny can't go with them because he's feeling ill and needs his meds, so he runs off to the campus hospital. Amy and Corey follow the trail of his car through the forest and find it absolutely wrecked, but get a shotgun out of the deal, so it's not a total loss. They also run into a bad Leatherface homage, which... They're then attacked by flying, feminine-looking harpy monsters that make these sounds. Avoiding detection, the pair emerge from the forest and just so happen to end up at the hospital. After getting inside, May calls Corey to let him know what's going on with June, and they agree to rendezvous at the hospital. The scene cuts to Kenny rifling through a drug cabinet and not finding what he needs. He tries to call Stan on the walkie, who is shown taking some kind of pill while driving, before Shannon walks into the room and apologizes for not being able to find his meds. Back to May and Sven, the two fight against time to reach June, only when they do, she's promptly yeeted out of a window and into the basement somehow. The game then does its level best to make you sick by having you control June through a camera feed that you have to adjust back to clarity with every angle switch, and it was just... bad. horrendously bad. It's not tense or suspenseful, it's just annoying. But eventually the game gives you direct normal control of June. You can unlock the basement door, and is that the error noise when you can't use something in World of Warcraft? I feel like I'm going feral. Anyway, a monster immediately snatches June and kills her despite your best efforts, so if you had just failed to reach her in time, you could have avoided this entire bit. And because this game has spent most of its time annoying the hell out of me, I felt absolutely nothing over this death scene, which is terrible, because let me tell you, I cry easily. I am a big baby. I'm made of marshmallow. It does not take a lot to get me emotionally invested. Annoy the shit out of me, however, and I will go cold, which I did to the entirety of this cast. It's worth noting that June's arm was ripped off so she resembles the state we saw her in at the beginning of the game, in a hallucination.
Oh, jeez! I can't leave her
May,
like
please,
this.
we need to go!
Fatality.
Moving on from this tragedy, we return to Corey and Amy at the hospital. The professor calls to reveal that the flower everyone huffed earlier mutated from the Solanaceae family, otherwise known as Nightshade. Cool. The kids head down to meet up with Mr. James on the ground floor, and
I don't know how I did it, but the lab door's open.
the game is doing this on purpose, isn't it? On the way down, we find a few hospital reports blaming the loose morals and copious amounts of unprotected sex among the student body for the fast spread of infection.
So students turned into monsters because they got busy without using protection?
They should have known better. You should always use contraceptives.
Well, it's a little bit too late for a morality lesson now.
What were you trying to say, dev team? They open a magnetically sealed door and the scene cuts to Kenny and Shannon, who looks like this now because surviving the last game left a hell of a mark. And while Kenny struggles to keep his infection in check, Shannon has apparently gained control of hers without meds. She's been trying to help her brother and admonishes him for snorting the crushed up flower earlier because that's obviously set him off, and I just... How did neither of them recognize it? It was going around the students for a month according to Sven. How did they not realize and get the hell out of Dodge? Regardless, Kenny loses it and Amy and Corey open the door in time to see him transform. They promptly run, leaving Shannon behind as she tries to control the explosion of spores. The kids make it to the ground floor and regroup with Mr. James. Sven and May pull up outside and are driven into the building by monsters blocking the way out. Devising a way out of the hospital, the gang put together nitroglycerin and blast their way to the ambulances, all the while Kenny bellows in the distance. Just as they're about to reach safety, Kenny drops in on them and... His f***ing legs! His legs! Right, yes, boss fight. There's a boss fight with Monster Kenny. He knocks everyone else unconscious and during the fight throws Corey onto some rebar, which really should have killed him, but instead he gets to watch Kenny crush May's head.
Oh, I didn't do it on purpose.
Fatality.
Shannon and Stan turn up to drive Kenny off and he claims they're no longer family before fighting again. They eventually force him to leave and the gang pile into some van rather than an ambulance, but whatever. They drive along to sad music until a monster on the road causes them to veer off a cliff and crash near a dam. Stan wakes up to Jesus Christ. Mr. James assures them everyone is fine, so Stan and Shannon head into the dam to see if it's safe. They fight through monsters, solve a steam puzzle and reach the control room, only to look through the window and see Amy sitting motionless on the other side. But she was in the van. How the hell did she get there? She was in the van! Shannon calls outside that they need welding equipment to fix the elevator and reach Amy, and neither Sven nor Corey can offer an explanation as to how Amy got out of their sight. The gang eventually regroups once they can fix the elevator, and upon reaching Amy, Kenny shows up again. Amy is catatonic, and Kenny makes clear what happened.
Quick, over here! Check on the blonde. I wasn't too gentle with her.
Ugh! What did you do to her, you bastard? Somebody please blow his freaking head
I
off!
thought I taught you to respect women, Kenny.
This is where you're going, devs? This is where you chose to take the story? Jesus Christ. After dropping industrial equipment on Kenny 3 times, he Disney deaths down a hole and the gang bumble off into the forest. They get on some rowboats to cross a lake, and the game once more tries to kill me by having the camera jerk and jolt around as the AI partner shoots at things. Once the kids have regrouped, control switches to Sven and Amy, whereupon we get this exchange.
Are you okay, Amy?
What happened, Sven? We were at the dam and... I don't remember.
Try to forget about it.
I feel... dirty.
I won't let you go, Amy, even if it kills me.
Thank you, Sven.
Was this really necessary? We reach the other side and, after figuring out a puzzle, pass through a cemetery to a creepy house in the woods just to get attacked by the disfigured man from earlier. Stan and Shannon follow their trail and this happens.
Why are we fighting, Stan?
Because we didn't survive adolescence just to die here.
Surviving? What about living? Living right now.
Do you want a better reason to fight?
You didn't earn this, game. The gang regroups inside the creepy house, finding Amy hiding in a closet but unsure where Sven is. They eventually reach him in the basement just in time to watch Chainsaw Boy kill him.
Fatality.
Stan and Shannon chase him beneath the house into a series of tunnels that look worryingly familiar until they end up in the ruins of Leafmore. Fantastic. Before they can keep looking for Chainsaw Boy, absolute confirmation of what exactly Kenny did to Amy comes in the form of contractions.
Kenny, you monster! You didn't! You wouldn't do that to Amy, would you?
Contractions? Stay calm. Relax. You need medical attention.
Thanks, I hate it. Through a series of arbitrary puzzles involving construction equipment and knocking down walls, the gang eventually find Chainsaw Boy taking care of a mutant tree. It turns out the mortophilia in Herbert Friedman's body took root after his death, and Chainsaw Boy is his son, mutated by the spores passed on through conception. Great. Cool. After which the gang walk out of Leafmore and the game has the audacity to pull a fake-out ending and make me play through another hour or so of this nightmare. We're shown Amy with a horrifically bloated abdomen being loaded into an ambulance, and Mr. James is revealed to be with the people behind everything. The gang is taken captive and driven off, only for a wall of spores to slam into the vehicles and cause a crash. Sure, okay. Without weapons, Stan and Shannon run through the forest and reach the party house from the beginning. They open a mysterious door that brings them to the Brotherhood's secret chambers, finding a variety of shady shit, not least of which the museum room where creatures from the first game are on display. They overheard earlier that Mr. James is taking Amy to the Lincoln Stadium for pickup, and upon reaching said stadium, there's an exchange between Corey and Kenny.
Here we are, at the climax of things. A new beginning. You, Corey. Even though I took everything you cared for away from you, you will come to love me like a brother. For you and I will be the same.
You know what, Kenny? There's only one person I ever belonged to. And it was May.
Fatality.
A third and annoying boss fight with Kenny finally sees him die for good. He asks Shannon to take care of his child before peacing out, and Shannon assures him she'll kill the damn thing. Unfortunately, they're too late as Mr. James tries to make a getaway with Amy, only for Amy to explode in a cloud of black spores, taking out both of them. I just don't understand what the hell the writers thought they were playing at with this. The game finally ends on an offensively jaunty tune with the implication of a third game on the way, but thankfully that never happened.
Rock and roll.
As you might be able to tell, this game got on my nerves, and the story did not help. Amy's fate in particular was cruel, sloppy shock and little else, lazily mishandled from start to finish. If you're going to touch on subject matter like that, you need to know what the hell you're doing, or you run the risk of showing your ignorance about something that is, for many people, too painful to articulate adequately. I am intensely disappointed by this game, as, for me, the music was the only good part of it, but I'm glad I sated my curiosity at the very least. For now, I'll move on to another game, one I'm far more familiar with and intended to replay for a while now. Good night, good luck.